Their goal was to usurp President Trump.
Their goal is to usurp President Trump's power and undermine the will of the American people, regardless of their influence.
Everyone involved in this conspiracy must be investigated and held accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
There is perjury here. There is conspiracy to give false testimony. There is obstruction of justice.
We need a judge. Yes, we need a judge. This is treason. This is treason.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk once again about treason and conspiracy against America. I told you on Friday about the National Intelligence Report on the Obama administration's plot to overthrow President Donald Trump. Previously, these were guesses and speculations, but today we already know that it was true.
President Trump, I'm going to walk you through President Trump. I'm going to tell you what we have at the moment, but I'm sure more information will come out. I believe people will be arrested. I believe criminal charges will be filed. I believe we will see people testifying in Congress. This is just beginning, so don't hold your breath. It will take time, but I believe this is the case. We'll see. Arrest. So I ask for your patience while I deal with this. And while the Trump administration is restoring order, let me show you what was shown last night on Fox News about this situation.
Breaking news from Fox News. We just took a look into Obama's black book. And it turned out Barack always knew that the Russia case was fake, but he still pushed it to sabotage Trump's presidency.
Tulsi Gabbard's days are being declassified, page after page of documents.
They show that Obama's intelligence officials reported to him just a few weeks after the 2016 election that the Russians actually did not influence the election. Quote, "We assess that Russian and criminal elements did not influence the recent United States elections, the election results.
Criminal activity also did not reach a scale or level of sophistication that could have changed the outcome of the election."
But Obama just couldn't accept it. That's why he and his staff instructed intelligence agencies to cook up new reports to support the narrative of collusion with Russia. Quote, "After the meetings, Clapper's executive assistant sent an email to intelligence community leaders instructing them to create a new intelligence community. An assessment at the president's request, which detailed the tools used by Moscow and the actions taken to influence the 2016 election. Tulsi Gabbard described what she discovered as a conspiracy to undermine the will of the American people. And she says that those involved should be held criminally responsible.
And she has already submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice.
We knew that Hillary created the dossier, and now we have evidence that Barack was giving the orders.
So the Trump dossier, the Christopher Steele dossier, was created at the direction of Hillary Clinton and with her money. She had a problem in her background, too close ties with Russian oligarchs selling uranium to the Russians, and the big red reset button she brought to Lavrov. There was also her drinking during her trip to Russia, her lost phone, and her people decided to fight fire with fire. Instead of defending her, they decided to smear Trump with Putin-related dirt. Obama picked up the idea and ordered the intelligence agencies to write a report about Trump's supposed collusion with Putin and Moscow's alleged interference in the American elections.
The journalist who has received many awards, Catherine Herridge, started digging into this case and showed that apparently Susan Rice, who worked for Obama, sent herself this secret document by email on January 20th, where she basically wrote
the following. Obama
started a conversation about the need to investigate Trump and his possible collusion with Russia, and that intelligence agencies absolutely must look into this and go after Trump, but to do it strictly according to the law. Why did he need to say do everything by the
law? So
here, this is new information that's coming out, and it leads directly to Obama.
Kennedy lost and spent half a year on a drinking binge. Her accomplices, led by the first black president of the United States of America, picked up her cause and began organizing what Tulsi Hubbard described as a path and conspiracy to overthrow the legitimately elected president of the United States. In other words, the very thing Trump was accused of many times. On the morning of December 8, 2016, Obama was officially informed that Russia, according to intelligence, did not attempt to influence the United States elections. Obama ordered that this report be thrown out and another one be written, unfounded and fake, in which Trump would look like a Kremlin puppet that Putin put in the Oval Office. That same report was supposed to go to the new president, who had not yet been sworn in, who until January 20 had not yet occupied the Oval Office. FBI Director Comey went to Trump and instead of the report handed him a folder of documents from Steele saying that the FBI and CIA knew it was nonsense and that Trump shouldn't worry about it. But we're showing it to you simply because some publication is about to print it. In short, there will be a lot of noise, but he shouldn't worry. Everything is perfectly fine. Steve Bannon was at that time working with the president, serving as his chief political advisor. Here he is talking with two experts about this matter.
The president-elect receives the same briefing as the sitting president of the United States during the transition period. Got it. They hid it. That's how two-faced they are. That's how guilty they are.
Benraz, Obama?
They'll all rot in damn prison. And that's why we have to take control of this. This is the deep state. This is a coup against Trump.
So not only did the conspirators delay Trump's daily briefing while discussing what to do, but they also deceived him and dozens of top officials in the country who received the same report right after the president. None of them received information that Russia had not interfered in the 2016 elections in the United States of America.
As just mentioned, what should we do? How will people be able to realize the fact that Obama and others will most likely go to prison?
A lot is happening here, and that's true. And if we go back to that time, President-elect was receiving the daily presidential briefing, and of course, at that time, the president was Trump. That's why they specifically removed the original report before Trump and his team could get a copy, so they would only see the edited version. That's why they hid it from the press. They didn't hide it from Obama. They did everything to keep Trump from getting access to it. Look, you'll see everything for yourself.
I definitely expect there will be hearings. I definitely expect people will be able to get to the bottom of this, but you'll see criminal prosecutions too. I don't want to hear about it.
I want the grand jury to bring these guys out in handcuffs. Amen. Forget about the hearing. How can you not see criminal cases? Forget about it. It's a criminal case. This is where false testimony comes in. There's perjury here. There's conspiracy to commit perjury. There's obstruction of justice. We need a judge. Yes, we need a judge. This is treason. This is treason. They tried to sabotage the election. They tried to overthrow the government. This is treason. That's why I need Judge Jenin or Ed Martin or one of those federal judges, lawyers. Someone needs to take this on a permanent basis.
Former host and former judge means Jeanine Pirro. Now, the chief prosecutor of Washington, Steve, is not speaking at a congressional hearing, but directly, that is, to the Washington Attorney General's office, and urgently to start the case. I suspect that Trump wants to talk to the people at length and in detail about what kind of criminals were in the White House before him. And for this, it shouldn't be done quickly, as Bannon suggests, but on the contrary, slowly for a long time, going over all the details, repeatedly stirring up the picture of the Democratic Party's mass crimes. Trump wants to bury the Democratic Party, or at the very least, cripple it.
So they tried to rig the elections. Keep that in mind. Then they commit treason to overthrow the government with these false statements. So this is really serious. And I know there will be a lot of resistance. I hope that the Republicans and the Department of Justice will have the courage to do the right thing.
I hope so too. More precisely, Tulsi Gabbard published this report after everything had been coordinated with the White House, after the decision was made about where, when, who, and in which direction all of this would go. Do you really have any doubt about that? This is a devastating blow to the previous administration, which failed to take down Trump, even though they tried, even though they made an effort. And now they're going to start paying for all their actions. So what's going to start happening now?
Congress is starting to summon leading intelligence officials, Clapper, John Brennan, FBI Director James Comey, because they want to better understand how Russia rigged the elections. But now we know that didn't happen. So these people lied to Congress. They lied to all of us. Let me remind you of some of the lies they spread about President Trump, and let's watch this together. This is James Comey, the former head of the FBI.
There should be no doubt about it. The Russians interfered in our elections during the 2016 election cycle. They did it deliberately, they did it with a high level of skill, using enormous technical resources, and it was an active measures campaign directed from the very top of their government. There is no
doubt about it. This
has been confirmed with a high degree of confidence by the entire intelligence community, and members of this committee have seen this intelligence.
Well, that means he's lying. Moreover, he says that the evidence his crew members have seen is absolutely indisputable and proves that Trump became president solely because of Putin's actions.
Putin, this really happened. It's as far from fabrication as possible, and it's very serious. That's why it's encouraging to see that both parties are focusing on this, because it's about America, not about a particular party. So this was a hostile act by the Russian government against our country. Yes, sir.
During that period, were there any other targets besides the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee?
That's right. A large-scale operation was carried out to attack government, non-government, and quasi-government organizations, including nonprofit foundations.
What do you think is the estimate of the number of organizations that Russians attacked during that period?
It's hundreds. I believe it could have been more than 1,000, but at least hundreds.
It's all a lie, every single word. None of that ever happened. He's literally spewing verbal diarrhea, lie after lie, just to push this narrative that Russia took over our elections. I mean, it's a lie. People should go to jail. This could have led to the start of World War III.
After all, America could have gotten so furious that someone was trying to interfere in our democracy, in our politics, that hotheads could have started throwing bombs at each other. But here's Obama, who is revealing his strategy.
To flood a country's public square, flood the public space of the country with enough dirt, you just need to sow enough doubt, spread enough dirt, sow enough conspiracy theories.
Isn't that exactly what he was doing? And then he used intelligence agencies and mainstream media to finish the job, and they picked up and spread his lies.
As a result, citizens no longer know what to believe. As soon as they start to lose their deep trust in their leaders, in the mainstream and widely distributed media, in the political institutions that are supposed to provide stability, and also in each other. And most importantly, in the very possibility of the existence of objective truth, their world begins to change.
After all, that's exactly what they did, right? Adam Schiff went out every day and said, if you knew what I know, I can't tell you because it's all classified. Or the mainstream media watched every day as Robert Mueller walked by with his briefcase. Today is the day we're going to catch Donald Trump.
The game was successfully won.
Obama says, listen, all you have to do is flood the mainstream media and the whole world with so many lies that people start to believe it. And that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, I believed it myself. I'm ashamed to admit it, but it's true. And now I'm doing everything I can to spread the truth.
Steve Gardner is the host, an intellectually honest person. He proved it by finding the strength to admit it when he realized that the facts he was being fed were not entirely true. To logically figure out what is happening in the country, what is happening with Trump, to discard the propaganda and beliefs that were instilled in him and come to his own conclusions. Unlike most Russian-speaking minds, Steve turned out to be an honest person. By the way, Trump knew everything we're talking about, he just didn't have the evidence at that time. Here's what he said before the 24th year elections.
Because they came after me, trying to do a coup.
Because they went against me, trying to stage a coup. They went against me, spying on my campaign.
They started from the day I won, and even earlier, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster, they were a disgrace to our country, and we caught them. We caught all of them. We have everything on tape. We caught all of them.
You suggested using the Logan Act against General Flynn. You'd better pay attention to that because in a way we caught you too.
President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. Don't talk about a peaceful transfer of power.
The Democrats said, "We never interfered in elections. We have always accepted and will always accept the results of democratic voting." That's just more sweet talk from liars and frauds. And by the way, a murderer. Yes, Trump during the 2024 debates didn't know that Obama was in charge of the process. He thought Obama was just aware of it. But now from the documents, it's clear that this scoundrel started it all.
Steve Bannon and Jack Posobiec are right to point out that intelligence should be used to inform the president and ensure America's security. Instead, Obama used it against the president and against the American people. Let me bring this up on the screen and we'll watch it together. This is really, really brilliant. How do they break all this down?
About the Obama administration's plot to undermine Donald Trump's victory in the 2016 election and his presidency in Washington, District of Columbia, today's date is Friday.
This is from the Director of National Intelligence.
Gabbard revealed irrefutable evidence of how, after President Trump won the 2016 election, then President Obama and members of his National Security Council fabricated and politicized intelligence to lay the groundwork for what essentially became a years-long coup against President Trump.
This wording comes from the Director of National Intelligence.
And she also writes at the beginning of the tweet that their goal is to usurp President Trump's power and undermine the will of the American people.
Regardless of their influence,
Everyone involved in this conspiracy must be investigated and held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Have you ever heard similar statements from the Director of National Intelligence or any other high-ranking intelligence official?
Sir Steve, I have never heard such rhetoric, because in all these years I have never seen anything like this. For intelligence channels and programs to be used to actually act and deliberately target an American politician who is supposed to become the next president of the United States. That is, the person who is now your successor, you are pointing to him. And in these documents, it is stated again and again, and you can see it because
it's so smart in terms of what Director of National Intelligence Gabbard did because she published all of this.
So she talks about it, she has a press release, there's a summary, but she also provides all the supporting documents as much as possible.
And it says very clearly there, by the order of the President of the United States, that is, by the order of Barack Obama. After this meeting, you now have to create this new assessment.
And Steve, by the way, we have emails here, I'm just looking through them, but you can see the analysts' responses. This is the Cyber Intelligence Technology Division, FBI cyber intelligence officers who respond to Clapper's team and say, wait a minute, listen to this. We would prefer to soften the first statement regarding Russia's intentions as it is currently written. It gives the impression that we have precise information that Russia really intends to disrupt our elections, and we're not comfortable making that assessment. This is from the FBI in 2016, but it's at a lower level.
These are real intelligence analysts much lower than Comey's level, much lower than Clapper and Brennan from the former Office of National Intelligence and the former CIA. Where the people who actually do the work are saying, wait, we don't have evidence, we don't have proof to back this up.
And you're asking us to carry out this task? We're not comfortable doing it, and they did it anyway.
And we later found out that Brennan himself personally selected the people who were supposed to prepare this completely fake assessment, and he was in charge of the whole thing.
The whole story about Trump's ties to Russia was an absolute lie and was completely made up by themselves, or at the direction of Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and the top leading echelon of the Democratic Party of the United States of America, the Democratic Party. They are the ones who turned half the country against us. To hate Trump, to hate and reject everything he does for the good of our country. You know, there was an episode in United States history. The Wright brothers built the first airplane and tested it, while the press wrote, maybe at the behest of railroad magnates, I don't know that an airplane can't fly and that the Wright brothers are crazy. The following case is well known. A visiting journalist is riding a streetcar in Oakland, and suddenly a Wright airplane flies overhead. What was that? The journalist asks the people sitting nearby, and one of them replies, that's one of the crazy Wright brothers. They think their machine can fly. What idiots. So this machine is an airplane, it just flew by, but people say they think their machine can fly. What idiots. This is definitely a case for a psychiatrist, right? And now half the country thinks so. That's what you call the power of propaganda. It is. They think it's Trump who's the threat to democracy. Not the Democrats, not Obama, not Hillary, not the corrupt thieves, but
Trump. This is just the beginning. And I don't believe they would have made such compromising information public if they weren't ready to cross the Rubicon and do what needs to be done. That's why I don't think this process will be quick. But I truly believe that it will all end with people going to jail and trust in our elections and elected leaders will be restored. This looks very bad for Barack Obama, James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, and others. More information will be coming out soon.
I also believe that Trump's team has thought through every step that will be taken to punish those who have been trying for years to turn us into obedient slaves. Will they be punished with prison sentences? I'm not sure, not all of them. But it will be a resounding blow to the Democratic Party of the United States, which tried to turn us into a banana republic.
This is the number of search queries in the most powerful search engine in the world. For the phrase, arrest Barack Obama, all right, I see that something really has changed in the last couple of days. It seems that calls to arrest President Obama have noticeably increased. And with every hour, as we live and breathe, our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is publishing more and more information proving that Barack Obama should be arrested. It was Barack Obama who rejected the intelligence community's assessment that Russia did not interfere in our elections in 2016. And instead, Obama ordered them to create the theory about collusion with Russia.
That is just as all political analysts predicted since the day before yesterday. Trouble has come for Obama. Open the gates. Barakushka, you need to run away from here. Maybe they'll accept him in Kenya or in his homeland with the passport he used to come to the United States and Indonesia. He studied here with an Indonesian passport. I think Obama was sent to us by God as a warning, like, this is what will happen if you don't start teaching your children what freedom is, what America is, what capitalism is.
Fox News alert, we just got a peek inside breaking news. We just took a look inside Obama's black book,
And it turned out that Barack knew from the very beginning that the Russian conspiracy was a fabrication, but he still pushed that version to sabotage Trump's presidency. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard declassified documents showing that Obama's intelligence informed him a few weeks after the election. In 2016, the Russians did not influence the outcome of the election. Quote, "We assess that Russian and criminal elements did not affect the results of the recent United States elections. Criminal activity also did not reach such a scale and level of sophistication as to change the outcome of the election."
Barack Obama, an Indonesian national Muslim and Islamist, a hater of the white race, appointed the communist Brenner to lead the CIA, and together with him, with the scoundrel Comey and the alcoholic Hillary, they began or tried or organized everything to overturn the will of the people and remove the democratically elected president, violating the Constitution of the United States of America.
All of this was declassified, and that's why Arrest Obama Now has become a trend all over the world. In fact, it was the main trend on Channel X all weekend, Arrest Obama Now. And I tend to agree with Matt Walsh. An unpopular opinion, but I don't care as long as they actually arrest and prosecute Barack Obama. You can't claim there's a treasonous conspiracy and then do nothing about it. That's the usual Republican tactic. They make accusations like that and then do absolutely nothing. They just use it to get on and start trending on Twitter. And I'm against that. I'm tired of it. Go arrest these people and hold them accountable, then I'll care. And if you don't do that, what does that say about you? And I agree with Matt Walsh on this. I agree here. Arrest Obama for treason right now. Arrest Obama is trending. Arrest Obama. It's trending for a reason. If they can arrest Trump, that means they can arrest Barack Obama.
That's right. If they can arrest Trump, then they've opened Pandora's box. Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly how you, dear Democrat friends, will perish from what you yourselves have brought. You brought the sledgehammer, and it will be the end of you. And what new has happened in these 48 hours after the announcement that shocked America? Witnesses have started to come forward who want to tell Tulsi what else happened, to add details and color to her report.
Gabbard says that new whistleblowers from the deep state have emerged, people who are at the very center of Obama's inner circle, and that they are going to show you everything. It's just crazy. Whistleblowers are coming forward to testify about the conspiracy against Trump. Tulsi, we have whistleblowers coming forward now. After I publish the documents, all of this is being sent to the Department of Justice. Charges must be filed. They need to be held accountable. We have the evidence to bring those responsible to justice. Tulsi Gabbard confirms that whistleblowers in the Russiagate case have come forward to work with her. They are outraged by what happened. They altered and fabricated intelligence reports to create the appearance of Russian interference in order to destroy President Trump. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, what can we realistically expect from our prosecutors and investigators?
And do you believe that we will see prosecution? And do you believe that we will see prosecutions? I mean, our audience wants to know where this story will go next. Will we ever see anyone held accountable for this incredible lie to the American people?
I'll do everything I can. And we actually have whistleblowers, Maria, who are now coming forward after we publish these documents. Because there are people who were there, who worked in the intelligence community at the time, and were so outraged by what happened that we're starting to see some of them come out of the shadows because they too, like you, me, and the American people, want justice to prevail. Justice. So we will provide everything we have and everything we continue to gather to the Department of Justice. With that direct purpose and intention, charges must be brought. Those responsible, regardless of how influential they were and remain, regardless of who was involved in creating this treasonous conspiracy against the American people, all of them must be held accountable.
America, a people who were manipulated as others wished, deceived, spat on, treated like cattle and fools, you have become strong. After all, we do not live in Europe, accustomed to social classes, nor in Asia, where castes exist no matter what they are called. Then we are in America, in the new world, where the people do not know that they are worse than anyone else. Who went to Washington? Members of American society. This is not a stratified society like in all other countries of the world. We are no better than anyone, no worse than anyone. Today we sent him to Washington. Tomorrow we will recall him. So the genes of Americans are the genes of rebels, loners, dissenters, adventurers, those who don't give up. And we don't like to bow our heads. We just don't like it. By the way, there are 3 countries in the world with these genes: America, Australia, and Israel. If they executed kings in England, then you can be sure that in the United States they'll put someone in a cage and drive them around the country in a cart, so that people would look at the jesters who wanted to rule over us, not to govern the country on our behalf, but to rule. These are completely different things. We replaced them, as it says in the Declaration, and began to change the system of governance in accordance with the Declaration of Independence of this country.
Do you expect indictments and prosecutions?
I'm not a lawyer. In my opinion, we have enough evidence to move forward and achieve justice. Yes, to hold the guilty accountable and bring charges against them.
And now Tulsi Gabbard will tell us what will happen next week. Starting tomorrow, they will present even more evidence. I don't know what else you need. Look at these 100 pages of documents. Everything is there. We've thoroughly analyzed them. But she says that they will present even more evidence that Barack Obama rigged the election against Trump. That's exactly what this is really about. Yes, it's a conspiracy to commit insurrection. Barack Obama should go to jail. He needs to go to prison. You can invoke presidential immunity, but not for actions that are illegal. Not for actions that are clearly illegal. You are not allowed to kill someone, right? Even if you are the president. Again, this will have to be discussed in court because you would have to arrest Barack Obama. You would have to arrest him. Here is Tulsi Gabbard explaining what happens next.
And I understand that maybe you have something else that you're going to make public next week. And I was told that's exactly why they conducted the search at Mar-a-Lago. That they wanted to find documents related to the Trump-Russia case, which would indicate a complete lack of collusion and that there was no basis to even start such an investigation. But Trump didn't have those documents at Mar-a-Lago, but that's exactly why they searched his house in 2022. That's right.
I don't have any details about the search itself that took place at Mar-a-Lago or its consequences. That information is in the possession of the FBI. I understand, but I have no doubt that this assessment by the intelligence community, which President Obama ordered to be published, contained a fabricated intelligence document. This is even worse than the politicization of intelligence. This was fabricated intelligence created with the purpose of achieving President Obama's and his team's goals to undermine Donald Trump's presidency and to subvert the will of the American people. So yes. Next week, we will release more detailed information about exactly how this happened and to what extent this information was hidden from the American people, hidden from officials who could have done something about it. And I think that's really the most important point, Maria, and you said this in your introduction. Accountability is necessary for the future of our country so that the American people can have at least some trust in our democratic republic. Accountability for actions, prosecution, and charges against those who tried to steal our democracy are extremely important so that we can be sure that something like this never happens to our country again.
I want you to understand Tulsi Gabbard is not a Republican. I mean, maybe she joined the Republican Party, probably joined. She was a member of the Democratic Party, a representative from Hawaii in the Democratic Party in Congress. She is a veteran, of the United States Army. She is a lieutenant colonel in the reserves, Tulsi, and she participated in the Iraq campaign. She fought for the position of presidential candidate from the Democratic Party, but her views clearly did not satisfy either the party bosses or the radical so-called left wing of the party. By education, Tulsi is a television producer, and at the officer school she was recognized as the best graduate, becoming the first woman to receive the title of best graduate. They award it every year. Now Tulsi is mentioned among the possible contenders for the presidency in 2028. But, so to speak, as they say, there's still a long time until then. And let's see. Will she be sweet? She will definitely be sweet. And sweet will be something completely different. So let's move forward to the sweet.
Saskatchewan
And Alberta just now.
made a new clear statement that could literally lead to the breakup of Canada. Alberta and Saskatchewan are already more connected to the United States than to the rest of Canada.
Alberta and Saskatchewan are increasing the pressure. Growing dissatisfaction with Ottawa has reignited talks about leaving Canada, and some are even suggesting that they become the 51st and 52nd states of the United States.
Their economies don't just depend on American markets, they are completely dependent on them. And what does Canada do? Does it get in their way? Taxes, regulations.
These provinces trade with the United States more than with their eastern neighbors. If they really leave, Canada's fragile balance from Quebec to British Columbia could collapse overnight.
A friendly conversation between two prime ministers.
It was a strategic alliance with one clear message for Ottawa.
For the first time in Canadian history, these two provinces held a joint government caucus meeting in Lloydminster. Not for coffee and donuts, but so that the message would be so loud it would shake the maple syrup on Parliament Hill.
On this occasion, because it really matters, literally while we were all sleeping, these two provinces united in a way that hasn't happened since the time of the Canadian Confederation.
And no, it wasn't just another photo op where politicians smile, nod, and go home pretending they've accomplished something. This was a calculated move. Two provinces basically looked at Ottawa and said, "You took our patience, our money, our pipelines, and now we're taking control into our own hands."
They use Alberta's pipelines, live off Alberta's wealth. Simply put, Alberta subsidizes the entire Canadian Confederation.
Danielle Smith from Alberta and Scott Moe from Saskatchewan also didn't soften their words. They spoke firmly, directly accusing Ottawa of being dismissive, and made it clear, if the federal government continues to treat them like an automated teller machine, they are quite ready to start printing their own currency.
This is what President Donald J. Trump can do by dropping remarks about Canada, saying it would be better off becoming a United States state than pretending to be a country capable of feeding and defending itself. After all, we are living in a historic time, ladies and gentlemen, a time of enormous tectonic changes. God bless Trump with good health. God grant that he has enough strength until our next meeting.